So far. People have already texted me to send out the recording.
Okay. It's just the host. It's just the Daf Yomim Magid Shiur. Thank you for the invitation to join us. That'll be a very nice initiative to already be mindful for the upcoming Noraim. It's definitely very bold and heart palpitating of you to use your summertime and already be focused ahead of what's coming. I do think it's actually one of the unique elements of the Jewish calendar is that Hakadosh Baruch Hu wants us to enjoy life. Hashem wants us to be happy, but the calendar is built in a way that you can never be too frivolous. The summer has 3 weeks in the middle of it, and by the time you get that over with, you have Elul right around the corner. You can't be just too free at any point. It kind of keeps you in line. Hashem puts the bumpers up that yes, you have flexibility and your room to grow, but at the same time, always remember you have to have your Shemayim because Baruch Hu is watching out that you have to do the right thing. And the Sfarim even mentioned that we're in the month of Av, and one of the Rosh Tevos for the month of Av is Elul Ba. So it's it's right around the corner. You think it's summertime, but Elul is right around the corner. So I would definitely talk about it in a positive way. We were joking before; they're right next to the fire right now. If we want to talk about the fires again, then we can. But we're not going to go in that direction because a positive Yiddishkeit is a healthy Yiddishkeit, and we'll try to grow from that particular perspective. So we know that it's not even random that this is the timing you chose to start doing this, because there is a concept that we have 3 weeks of haftarahs that fall into 3 weeks called the Shiva de Puranusa, the 3 weeks of Puranusa, of calamities, and we remember the calamities that happened throughout Klal Yisrael's history. And right on the heels of this, we all know Nachmu Ami is a haftarah of nechama and consolation, comfort. But it's not just one. It's really 7 straight weeks called Shiva de Nechemta, the 7 straight weeks of comfort. And every single one of those haftarahs is an element of nechama in it, an element of comfort, element of nurturing Klal Yisrael to strengthen them to be able to get there. So it just can't be coincidental that approximately 7 weeks right after Tisha B'Av every single year is Rosh Hashanah. So it's not even like arbitrarily that you guys chose to link together Tisha B'Av to Rosh Hashanah. It's really built into our calendar itself that we are now building up from the ashes and from the mourning and from the difficulties over 3 weeks, but we always take difficult situations, we try to grow from them, we try to build beyond them, and we don't like to hamper ourselves with that particular negative experience we went through. We deal with it, we digest it, and then we move on from there to try to build ourselves back up again. This coming Shabbos is Tu B'Av. The Gemara in Tainus says that Tu B'Av is one of the greatest Yomim Tovim in all of Klal Yisrael's history, and there are many great events that happen on Tu B'Av. So I'm just taking out my notes from my phone just to remind myself, make sure I get all of them. There's actually 6 events that happen on Tu B'Av. What were those 6 events? Event number 1 is that it used to be that the Shvatim did not intermarry with each other, and on Tu B'Av was the day that they changed that policy that the Shvatim married with each other. Second thing that happened is that there's a infamous story of Pelegish Begiva. We don't have to talk about that particular story, but after that incident happened, they actually made a ban that no one can marry into Sheva Binyamin, and Binyamin is off for Shidduchim. It's bad for the Shidduch resume. On Tu B'Av, that ban was waived, and they're able to marry Sheva Binyamin. Third thing that happened, that Yerovam ben Nevat set aside guards. Is at the time in Jewish history that the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom of Klal Yisrael were separated. Those in the northern kingdom had to travel down to get to Yerushalayim for Liyah L'Regel. Yerovam ben Nevat did not want them doing Liyah L'Regel, and he placed guards to actually block the roads to not allow people to travel from the northern kingdom to Yerushalayim. Those guards are removed on Tu B'Av. Fourth thing that happened, that used to cut wood to be able to put on the Mizbeach to do the Avodah in the Beis HaMikdash, and they used to collect it over the summer. The last day of collecting the wood was on Tu B'Av every single year. And for some reason, there's a celebration in there. We'll have to discuss why in a couple of seconds, but there's some positive element about that they stopped cutting wood for the Mizbeach. The fifth thing that happened was that we know that the people of Klal Yisrael, they all died in the Midbar, and on Tu B'Av was the last day of dying. They no longer died on Tu B'Av. And then finally, the sixth thing that happened on Tu B'Av is that the people that were killed in the city of Beitar during Korban Bayesheni, they were brought to Kfura. A well-known story that several days, if not weeks later, they came across the city of Beitar. The people did not know what happened to the city of Beitar. They came across it, and they realized, in fact, the terrible news that Beitar was completely destroyed. However, there was an element of simcha here because they were able to bring them to Kfura. And there's also an element of simcha, the bodies themselves did not decompose, and they brought them to Kfura. That's actually when they were masakin the bracha of Hatoiv Ha'metiv. Hatoiv, that thank you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, were able to bury them. Ha'metiv, that Baruch Hashem, they did not decompose in the meantime, and they're able to do Kfura. 6 things that happened. Number 1, is the Shvatim can marry each other. Number 2 is that we're able to marry Binyamin. Number 3, they're able to move away the guards that block Yerushalayim. Number 4, they stop cutting wood. Number 5, the people in the Midbar stop dying. And number 6 is this final one, they brought the people of Beitar to Kfura. Now, the challenge that we have for ourselves is that we know that when anything we have in the Jewish calendar, there's a certain personality to that time of the calendar. So, for example, we know that Nisan is the month of Geula. It's not that Pesach happened in Nisan and that made Nisan the month of Geula. It's rather Nisan is the month of Geula and therefore Pesach happened at a particular time. Shavuos is a month of Torah. It's not that since we received the Torah on Shavuos, therefore that's the month of Torah. No, there's a certain personality in the month of Sivan, and that's why we receive the Torah on a particular date. So if we're saying that all 6 of these things happen on Tu B'Av, that must mean there's something in the energy and in the air and in the personality of Tu B'Av that generates these 6 things. And that also means, in my mind, there's a common denominator of all 6 of them. And the question I am posing to all of you is, what is the common thread that weaves together those 6 things that we just spoke about?
It's funny you ask, because I'm thinking those are the most random, 6 things I've ever heard of.
Yes.
That's what connects them. It's
Right.
so far apart.
Right, exactly.
So I'm not Rav Moshe Shapiro, but famously Rav Moshe Shapiro used to give a chabura with about as many men as you are right now, and it was a Motzei Shabbos. I know Rabbi Kiva Tatz used to be in that chabura, and he told me about this. Is that he would go around the table with Moshe Shapiro and say, each of you pick a topic that you want to speak about tonight. And one guy would say Karsa Toiv, the other one would say Emunah B'Tachon, the other one would say I want to talk about Tu B'Av, the next guy would say that I want to talk about marriage, the next guy said I want to talk about Shalom Bayis, and he'd give one share weaving together every single topic that all the guys mentioned. This was like flawless, like just like mamish, like perfectly putting all together. And he explained it's Chaim Yilama Chazikim Ba, that Torah is the tree of life. So ultimately all the branches do connect to each other if you really know how to connect them in an intimate and meaningful way. So the question is, what is the common denominator of these things? So I'll tell you what I did in my head, and it kind of got me far enough that I wanted to finish it, is that a few of them were clear to me what the common denominator is. The common denominator of several of them, you'll see right off the bat, is that each of them represented things that seem to have been barriers, and the barriers were removed. So the easy one is, let's say you had the guards that are blocking Aliyah L'Regel. There used to be a barrier there, that barrier is removed. You weren't able to have the Shvatim marry each other. There was a limitation that was in place, and that limitation was removed, and now the Shvatim are able to marry each other. Binyamin, there was a limitation there. They're not able to marry the Shevet Binyamin. That limitation was removed, and they were able to do that. So I already had 3 off the bat, so I kind of sensed that perhaps this is the direction we should be going in. The question is, can we do the other 3 as well? And this is what I like to suggest as follows. The Rashi in Maseches Taina says, what was the great simcha of stopping to cut the wood in the Mizbeach? So Rashi says it's very simple, is that it represented the time of the year that nights started getting longer. And nighttime is the time that we dedicate to Limud HaTorah. So they were so busy working. It was an impediment that stood in the way of their ability to dedicate time to Limud HaTorah. So once they finished the job of cutting the wood, that impediment, that barrier is taken out of the way. Now they can access what they really wanted to access with their time, which is learning Torah. And that's why they were so happy on that particular date. Okay, so we have number 4. Number 5 is those who died in the Midbar stopped dying on this particular date. Now there's a very similar question that we have on this as we have on the Yontiv of Lag BaOmer. What's the question that we have on this? Is a lot of Meforshim ask, that's very nice that the Talmidim Rabbi Kiva stopped dying on Lag BaOmer, but there's no one left to die. So it's not like hooray, like people stop dying. There's no one left to die. So what exactly are we celebrating on Lag BaOmer? And there are those who ask about this simcha as well on Tu B'Av, is that it's very nice they stopped dying on Tu B'Av, but like there was no one left to die. They all had died out in the Midbar already. So what?
15,000 were left to die.
Right. There were some.
There were 5 Talmidim there.
Yeah.
Also.
Yeah. Right. Well, those are new Talmidim that came along afterwards.
There were people who went to sleep the night before and thought
Right. They thought they were going to die,
They
etc.
woke up,
Yeah. So by Lag BaOmer, there's a common mahalach the Meforshim have, is that really, Sfira Soimer is supposed to be a Yantiv. It's really supposed to be Yantiv. It's the Chol HaMoed that connects Pesach and Shavuos, and it's supposed to be a day of Simcha. It got blackened and tainted and blocked by the morning of the Avelis of the Talmidei Rabbi Akiva. When this Avelis is taken out of the way, the impediment was taken out of the way, the natural light that was already there underneath was able to shine forth. And the Meforshim say over here that Kol Zman, the people of Klai Yisrael were dying in the Midbar, the Shekhinah did not talk to Moshe Rabbeinu. So we don't realize what kind of impediments and barriers were put in place by that period of time in the middle that people were dying. But as soon as they were no longer dying, the simcha was that the Shekhinah was actually more present in Klal Yisrael. There was an impediment, and it was taken out of the way, and they're able to access it. So we have 5 now. They all fit with this common theme, is that there was something in the way, taken out of the way, we're able to access what we want to ask. The final one is Beta. So Reb Chaim Shmulevitz actually discusses this storyline of what happened by Beta. They did not know what happened to Beitar. Beitar was a great metropolis of Torah. There were tens of thousands of people that lived there. Now imagine after the Churban Bayesheni, they are going now, they're hiking along the road to come to the city of Beitar, and they find 100,000 people that are dead on the street. So is your reaction going to be, Hatoiva Meitiv, Baruch Hashem? Or is your reaction going to be, this is the worst thing I've ever seen in my entire life? Why are they reacting with Hatoiva Meitiv? It doesn't seem to make any sense. So Reb Chaim Shmulevitz answers with another question that you probably heard before, is the story of Yosef going down to Mitzrayim. When Yosef went down to Mitzrayim, Hashem made a nes. Normally, Yishmaelim, they carry tar and pitch and very foul-smelling things. And all of a sudden over here, they had perfumes and very beautifully smelling things on the way down to Mitzrayim. So ask Reb Chaim Shmulevitz, it's like, yay, yippee. Like, he was sold down to Mitzrayim, away from his father, the worst time of his life. And you think he's really sitting there saying to himself, at least it smells good. Like, who cares? I actually once heard this question asked by a Rav in Monsey. There was a Yosef Weiner, and he said that there was a very famous Jewish World War I German hero. He was a general in World War I for the German army. And in World War II, when they were killing all the Jews, the German army had a dilemma. On one hand, he's a national hero, but at the same time, he's Jewish. So how do we handle this? So this Rav said their compromise was, they sent him to the concentration camps in a first-class cabin. So he said, like Yosef's almost the same thing. like, woo, I get to go down to Mitzrayim in a first-class cabin. Like, what am I gaining from this? So Reb Chaim Shmulevitz answers and says, Chap, at this particular point in Yosef's life, he thought Hashem completely abandoned him. He thought Akadosh Baruch Hu completely forsaken him. He thought he was gone forever and never going to have a connection to Klal Yisrael. The nace that happened, that normally is pitch and tar, and now it smells good. It's not the fact that it smelled good made him happy. It's that it was a little kiss from Hashem that I'm still in your life, and we still have a connection to each other. And Reb Chaim Shmulevitz said the same thing happened by Beitar. After the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed, Klal Yisrael thought what Christianity says is that it's possible for Hashem to say, you know what, enough's enough. I'm done with you guys. When they saw the nace happen, that the bodies didn't decompose, and they're able to bring them to Kfura, it was much bigger than just, oh wow, we can bury the bodies. It was a statement from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I still love you and I still want to connect to you. And therefore, their whole lives were brightened by this one little moment. Yes, obviously they were sad on one hand that these people had died, but at the same time, that simcha they had, they thought they were being blocked out completely. They were not being blocked out completely. They still had access to Kadosh Baruch Hu and a real connection to Torah Mitzvah. So it turns out that all 6 of these things have exactly the same exact yesod, is that it seems to be there's some sort of impediment that got in their way, but they were able to move beyond them and access them on Tu B'Av, and that's why it's such a special day. So I think, if we're now kind of getting our bearings straight and already thinking a little bit about Rosh Hashanah, is that maybe the very first lesson we could think about at this time of the year is that we move beyond the 3 weeks, move beyond that Avelis, what seemed to have been a very limiting, constricted time of the year. We're able to move beyond it. And also the very first step in the tshuva process is to realize that we don't have limitations. Very often, one of the main impediments that we have towards doing tshuva is like, this is the way that I am, this is my personality, this is my life situation, this is my marriage, this is my financial status, whatever it's going to be. And this is just the way that it is, and I can't do anymore. I can't break beyond that. Tu B'Av, right on the heels of Tisha B'Av, teaches us that just like those 6 things taught us that we're never limited and we can always break beyond at a certain point, so too in this tshuva process, we should never feel limited, and we really truly are able to accomplish what we want to accomplish in the tshuva process. We shall be zeicha Be'ez Hashem to continue climbing this ladder 1 week at a time, go through the Shiur with an attempt to Be'ez Hashem, and come to Rosh Hashanah as prepared and as ready as possible. So,
Whatever you say.
correct.
Actually,
I have to figure out the time. I'll try to get as quick as possible next time.